Step 1, take your piece of wire and make it into a thin piece of soldered wire. That when you're putting your wire into the press here, that you keep it perfectly perpendicular to the press. Step 2, get the size of your object. I'm going to take this piece of paper, a very thin piece of paper, and wrap it around this penny, which is going to be my object. And I'm going to cut off the excess paper. I'm going to measure the paper and cut that length of wire. I can use just regular scissors for this. Alright, next step, I'm going to start by forming this into just a regular ring. It's very thin, so it's pretty easy to form. And because I cut it with the scissors, making a light tight seam is also very easy. Next, solder the ring together. Step 3, I'm going to solder this ring together. I'm going to start by putting flux on that seam, and one solder chip. Make sure you have all the safety gear on, goggles, and your hair pulled back, and light the torch. And we're going to heat up the ring from a distance here, and then gradually bring our flame closer as the metal heats up. Solder is melted. We're done. Bring this over to the pickle. Step 4, we're going to shape the bezel. Now, because mine is a perfect circle, I can use a ring mandrel. So I'm going to slide it on here, push it on as far as it can go. Make sure it fits over the object. Okay? Got a very good fit, almost too loose. If this was too small, I could take it over to the ring stretcher and stretch it out a bit. This seems to be a fine fit. A couple of things I can do. I can take a file and file this down so it's comes just a little bit over the height of the penny. And the other thing is, I want to get this ready to solder down, so I'm going to solder the inside of the loop and the bottom. So to sand the bottom edge, I'm going to rub it on this sandpaper. I've sanded the inside of the bezel as well as the top edge and the bottom edge. Now I'm going to solder the bezel onto my back plate of nickel silver. Now I'm going to apply flux to the back plate and to the ring and put solder chips on the inside. I take the solder chip and I nudge it to the edge of the ring. And I just work my way around the edge of the ring. I place the solder around the edge of the bezel on the inside of the cup. Now I'm going to heat it up and solder it to the edge. I'm going to make sure I take my solder pick and lay it across the top and press down so that the bezel becomes connected all the way around. Make sure I have my safety glasses on and my hair pulled back, and start up the torch. And I'm going to start to heat up the metal, working my torch around the outside of the metal. I want the heat to draw the solder towards the outside, so I keep my torch on the outside of the bezel, just tracing the heat around. I want to be careful not to point my heat directly into the cup because the blowback will put out your torch. I start to see the solder to flash where it gets shiny and turns to liquid. I lay my solder pick on top, keep heating around, looking for the solder to pour out all around the edge. That looks good. I take my heat off. And as you can see, around the bottom edge, around the whole object, that solder has been connected. And this is an excellent bezel, ready to be put through the tumbler and connected to a piece of jewelry.